WagerTalk TV. I am Kelly Stewart, joined today by Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas and Preston at Sports Cheetah. We are talking a little LSU Tigers, -2.5 at Florida. So the big debate I've already heard on this game, well, Joe Boyles is this terrible quarterback. He's just horrible at stats and blah, blah, blah on paper. But I like this kid because he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't make mistakes. LSU kind of quietly flying under the radar, but top 5 team in the country. But Florida, on the other hand, Marco, 2 SEC upsets. I don't know what to make of this Florida team. I'm not quite sure that there is they seem a little fraudulent, I should say.
Yeah, you look at them, they lost to Kentucky, and Kentucky's better than people thought coming in, and I found out on the wrong side of the South Carolina game last week. But I look at this team, and I'm not impressed. They beat a Colorado State that's absolutely garbage this year. They beat a Tennessee team. They had +5 in the turnovers. Tennessee turned the ball over 6 times in that game, gave them the game, and then last week, Dan Mullen gets to go in and face his old team, Mississippi State. Tell me he wasn't pumped up for that. Plus, you know the personnel and everything. So I think they are a fraudulent 4-1. And you talked about Joe Burrow. You know, the guy's not flashy, but compared to LSU quarterbacks they've had in the past,
who is flashy?
Yeah, okay. This guy is a breath of fresh air for the LSU offense. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and this defense is for real. I like LSU. They've got the tougher schedule. They beat a Miami team that I thought coming in is not as good as they were pegged to be, but they're not as bad as people thought from that one game, but they rolled them. And then the Auburn game, they were down, and they showed character to come back and beat Auburn. I
have a feeling, by the look on Cheetah's face, he's coming in to play contrarian to both of us, Marco. Cheetah, who do you like in this one?
Did Ralph grow a beard?
Does he always just take the opposite side?
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I swear he does, except for today. Every week he takes the opposite side, though.
So I already bet Florida. It's worth mentioning the line at 2.5 now. I probably wouldn't bet. I got 3.5. There was a 4 on Sunday night I grabbed, but majority of my money's on +3.5. So my number's right at pick, like exactly. So usually I'm just going to be blindly betting the numbers anyways. I was on record during that Miami game. I love Burrow. I kind of have a little man crush on him. If you've been following me on Twitter, like first you're right, breath of fresh air. I think it's been over a decade since Jamarcus Russell. He's probably their best quarterback since then. And he made 2 really cool high-level audible checks at the line in that Miami game to run plays that went 50+ yards for touchdowns. He's just a really high-level guy. He had the whole summer to prep for Miami though, a little less time week to week. Since that's, I'll say I do like LSU in general. I don't hate them for any reason. That's not why I'm betting Florida. I even bet it at -9.5 last week when everyone was hammering Ole Miss down under double digits. I thought that was crazy. We even said in the video, you should be buying LSU at 10, and it was 12 at the time. And then, I did actually got under 10. So I don't dislike LSU, but I will say the Auburn wins since then. Auburn got outgained at home as a 30-point favorite to Arkansas. And then they barely struggled, to beat Southern Miss this last week. Auburn hasn't been very good, so that win's less and less impressive every week. And now they're going into Florida, and they're playing a Mullen and Grantham, I believe, is the defensive coordinator, who beat LSU at Mississippi State last year 37-7. I know it's a different LSU team. I think they're better at quarterback. We've talked about that. But they kind of have this figured out. They've coached and played against LSU before. So I thought getting over the field goal was a bet. I would bet it's still at +3 if it got back up to there. I don't envision it getting there, to be honest. But yeah, it's Florida or pass of the 2.5 for me currently.
I'll throw one thing out at you. With this Florida offense, I mean, they only got 13 points last week. This is a team that going against LSU's 18th in the country at stopping the run, 3 yards per carry. If Florida is not successful running the football, which that's been their bread and butter and that's set up their passing game, what does Florida do in this game if they can't get the running game going?
I think the Mississippi State defense is comparable to LSU. So, unders, I think it's 43.5, which technically is probably a little low, but you compound that these two teams are really defensive-oriented and play slower. Plus, I think there's weather on the horizon Saturday. It might rain. It's like a 40% chance of rain and some wind. So I kind of agree that it's going to be lower scoring, but, if Florida can get to 14 to 17 is probably more likely than 13 or less, but they still beat a Mississippi State team on the road outright, only scoring 13. So I think it's actually kind of a testament to how solid they are themselves defensively. And I wouldn't kick Mississippi State aside and saying they're not as good defensively as LSU. I think they're pretty comparable. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I think you can land 3 and we can all make money, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So
there you go. Good stuff from both guys. Tuesday is always $2 Tuesday, and you can get the hottest handicapper at WagerTalk for just $2.